All right, so we have a couple things to go over today. Number one is what to do after your stuff renders out. The second thing is the submission form, which is part of number one, so it's like 1.5. And then the second thing would be what we're going to be doing for the next assignment. So the After Effects part, the putting it together as a movie, that part is relatively quick. It'll be literally 5, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 if you really stretch it out, okay? And then the rest of the class you'll be able to work on the next assignment. So the submission forms that you have there, this is what you're going to turn in with every one of your assignments, okay? So as you start working on your stuff, you will build projects, you'll animate, you'll make movies. When you turn everything in, this submission form goes with it. And this is what I use to write your grade, write notes, and then this is what you see when I hand it back. So you can just go ahead and fill it out as I go through it. The project name is Game of Thrones. The due date is 9/5/18. So it's not due today, it'll be due next class, which is a week from today. So that way, in case something happened, let's say you rendered on Monday, you come in today and you look at it and the lighting didn't work, or the camera didn't render the right one, or a million things. I'll grab one of those. There's a million things that could go wrong with the rendering from one day to the next. So I typically wouldn't assign something today that's due next class just because of how things typically go with rendering. So it'll be due on the 5th. Plenty of time. Get in the habit, if you see something wrong with your stuff, to fix it. Because when you get to portfolio class or you get to demo reel or any of that stuff, you don't want to have to come back, open the file, refresh your brain of like, what am I even trying to do and why is it there? You know, just fix it. It's 100 times easier. If you knew how many times I would render and re-render and re-render and re-render something, it would drive you crazy, okay? So, due date 9/5, animating a Game of Thrones-esque scene. Our learning objectives, setting keyframes. So we went through that on the assignment. Manipulating timing of keyframes. That's when we use the graph editor and we use the dope sheet. Basic materials and lighting. So we used Arnold lights, Arnold materials, rendering in Arnold, and then compiling a sequence. Okay? That's the step we're doing today, is compiling the sequence. All of this is in the lecture too, so if I skip through it, you can always jump back to the video and get the rest of that. So what you'll be turning in for this is everything. And by everything, I basically need your scene file and your movie. That's everything, okay? But I want all of your project folders as well, so I can make sure your stuff stays organized. Just so we can see how much space is on my hard drive. That's not a trick question. How much space is on my hard drive? 323 gigs. Okay. After last semester, I was down to like 10 megabytes because people would turn in their entire folder, every single version of their file they had, and every single rendered sequence they had, and my hard drive just like got eaten up. So make sure you only turn in exactly what I want. If I get a folder that has a bunch of junk in it, I'm just deleting the folder. Okay? I'm not going to manage it, and then you'll return it in. All right? So our animation is a movie. That's our turn-in. 5 to 7-ish second animation with smooth camera movement. And then it's 960 by 540 at 30 FPS. Make sure you put your name on here. I need to know whose stuff I'm grading. I will not grade your stuff unless I get a sheet with your name on it. Okay? So make sure your name is on there. Your class number and name, that way I know what assignment it is for. So if it's title, I know that it's the correct class that we would be doing a title in, because I do that in several classes. Points possible for this assignment is going to be 3 points. All right, so the way this is going to work, Wednesday when you come in, there will be a drive on the server. You will take your folder, clean out all the crap that's in there. You will put it onto the server. That's your turn-in, okay? So it should have your latest movie and your latest scene file. Those are the only two things inside of your folders that I need to see, okay? Just so you know what that's going to look like. P drive, 2540, Game of Thrones. Typically, I copy this to my desktop. That way it's a nice clean area away from everything else. And just so you can see, this is 51 megabytes. We don't need 51 megabytes of stuff for our for that. Plus, I don't even have the movie in there yet, so it's going to be a lot. So inside my scenes, I go through and say, okay, that's my most recent file, which is Sarcona Game of Thrones house. And if I go inside my images folder, here's all these images. I don't need any of these. I can delete that. And then inside the movie folder, that's where the movie would be. Okay, so everything else should be empty except for scenes, movies. And if you can. So if you want to, just to sound mind, you can delete all the other folders. If you did bring in textures, I don't think anyone brought in any external textures like grass or whatever. If you did, keep the source images because that's where those textures are. But everything else can be deleted, okay? Workspace.mel, you want to keep that too. That's an essential file that Maya uses. When we make our project folder, that's where all that information is saved as to what goes where, okay? If you delete it, Maya can remake it. You can actually edit this in Notepad and you can see exactly where things are being saved. Scenes is in here somewhere. But don't delete it, okay? So I would take that folder, drop that onto the server. I would take my submission form, make sure my name's on here, write the date you're turning it in, and then turn it in. What I do is I go through and I have my pop next to me and I have a video on usually. If, you know, this class I don't need audio so I can watch a video while I grade. And I will look at your stuff in Maya, I will look at your video that you've created, and I will make any notes that I need. I will double check that you've met all the objectives for this assignment so you're hitting all those targets. And then I will write down some points there. So if it's full credit, you'll get 3 points. If you didn't render out your animation, then you will get 0 points because I don't have an actual movie to look at. Okay, I don't open your stuff in After Effects. That's like the easy part. You should be able to do that. If your lighting is way off, it's like too dark, your animation doesn't work, something happens, you'll get less points. So you may get 1 point or 2 points or whatever. Regardless of how many points you get, I give you back the sheet. Okay? So far, the only thing you have is a sheet of paper with your grade on it. If you're satisfied with that grade, you sign the sheet and you give it back to me. I put it in Canvas. If you're not satisfied with the grade, you take the next week, you fix it up, you resubmit it with this same sheet, and then I go through and I recheck it and then give it back to you. If you've earned more points, great. If not, or either way, you just sign this and give it back to me, and then I put that grade in Canvas, okay? When you do resubmit things, it's not about nickel and diming, okay? So if I say your lighting looks horrible, your animation looks horrible, this looks bad and that looks bad, don't do one of those things and then try to raise your points. Some people think like this is 3 points. If you got 2 or 1 point because you have all these things, if you fixed one thing, it's not going to raise it up a whole point. Okay, but some people think that it will, or it'll raise it up 2 points, or they'll add in a clown to make it, you know, fancier or something. I don't know. But do all the stuff. If I list 10 things that need to be fixed, fix those 10 things before you resubmit it. If you need more time, then say, hey, you know, I don't have this week is bad for me to be fixing stuff up. Can I get an extra week or another week after that to spend more time fixing it up? You're here to learn, so I want to make sure that I give you those opportunities, okay? Don't be afraid to fix things up. You only have the week after, unless you ask for an extension, to turn stuff in or resubmit it. Because I don't want to be in the last couple weeks and you're trying to play catch up and, you know, just get that grade up a little bit more. Questions on this? Cool. I'll save that. All right, now, how do we take something and put it into a movie? No one here has a Mac that they're working on? You have a Mac you're working on. Okay. Either way. On Macs, I believe QuickTime and H.264 are still inside After Effects. They've removed it. Okay? So on PCs, it's not there. So on PCs, we have to do something different. If all we're doing is taking our sequence and making it into a movie, we can jump right into Media Encoder, and that's an easy way just to like open it up and then make it into a movie and then get out. Okay? This is a tool that basically takes one video or a sequence and converts it into another video file or another type of format. It comes with Adobe, so if you have the suite, you would have that. The interface looks crazy, but just we only hit on a couple things. I'm going to go to Add Source. I will find my movie, and then I will hit Open. This is not your house. This is just a random video that I worked on. Okay. It says blah, blah, blah. The source compression type is not supported. What? What a jerk. Okay. Those are TIFFs. That's why it's not supported, because I render those out as a TIFF. Here's me. No, those are also TIFFs. All right, let me find something that's not a TIFF. I know I have stuff in Documents, and I have stuff in my Projects, Default, Images. There we go. Those are also TIFFs, but I think those ones should be good. You don't get a preview through this window anyway, so you just have to kind of trust and know that you did the right thing. I'm going to click here and put where I want this to go. Everything should be labeled with your name, okay? So if it's not labeled with your name, I will throw it out. Sarcona, this is Game of Thrones. And then if you want to put the class number in there so mentally you know what it is, feel free to. As long as it's in the right folder, I'll get it. Make sure that this is selected on H.264, and then you just hit go. And then you get a little preview at the bottom. There it is. Wonderful. And it's done. So that's as quick as it is. Open up Media Encoder, load your footage, make sure it's H.264, give it a name, and hit play. Done. If you need to do something different, you need to go into After Effects. So if you rendered it with an HDR, you may see that you have a blank sky, like there's nothing back there, right? So inside of After Effects, let me find mine, which is here and here and there and there. Okay, make sure this is the right one. This is not the right one. There it is. Okay, so you go into After Effects, you double click in this window here. I think most of you have had After Effects before. Anyone not had After Effects? You guys don't count. So you click double click right here. This is how you import stuff in. You find your footage, you click on only one file, don't click on all of them, you click on one file that's in your sequence. If you labeled your stuff right inside Maya, it will work perfectly fine. If you didn't, it won't, and you'll have to go and rename each file. Maya or After Effects wants them to be labeled name, period, number, period, extension. No period after that. So I click on the first one, I hit import. And then if I double click this, I can kind of preview it. There it is. Gorgeous. This is just a preview. Now I can take this and just drag it. Oops, before I drag it, I'm going to right click on it and go to Interpret Footage Main and make sure that my frame rate is set to 30 frames per second. Okay, so that's what we want, 30 frames a second, so make sure it's 30. Now I can drag it down, and now I have this in my scene. Gorgeous. Cool, so there it is. Now the background is completely black. If I go here and I look at the alpha channel, you'll see that the house and the ground are in white and the background is completely black, right? We need to put something back there. We don't want to have that picture back there because that picture looks ridiculous. Realistic picture and then this house, it doesn't match. But what this alpha channel allows us to do is put a solid color back there or a gradient back there, and that will help kind of tie the whole scene together so we don't have the black background. So I'm going to go to Layer, New, and add a solid. I can give it a color. That's actually a pretty nice color right there. That's the wrong size. Oops. I'm going to hit Make Comp Size. There we go. And then just drag this below it. So now I have something in the background. If I want to go fancier, I can go under Effect. I can go to Generate. And I can do a 4-color gradient. I'm not leaving that. And then I'm just going to pick this yellow for all of them. Actually, I don't think I like that yellow. I'm going to go to blue. That's a nice blue. Oops. And then I'm just going to lighten this blue here. All right, that's good enough. Maybe I'll switch it around. So I'm just going to rotate this 180 degrees. Nope, I like that better. Okay. So that's it. So you can put whatever back there. Some kind of flat image. You can make a gradient if you're comfortable with After Effects. You can go into Photoshop and draw a background and then bring that in. The background will not animate. The background is just static. So as my camera were to move or anything happens, you can see how it just kind of like plops right on top of it. Okay? Not a big deal. Cool. So now we need to take this and make it into a movie. Export. If you're on a Mac, you could go to Add to Render Queue. Otherwise, you will say Add to Media Encoder Render Queue. And what that's going to do is it's going to take this project and open the project inside of Media Encoder. So if I switch back to Media Encoder and I wait a second, it will pop in there. If you're not familiar with it, one of the great things about Adobe products is that they're all tied together. So if you're using Premiere and you're editing video, you can grab a section of it and bring that into After Effects. Then you can take a section of that and bring that back into Premiere. And then you can take all that and bring it into Media Encoder. And then you can grab stuff in After Effects and bring it into Photoshop or vice versa. So it's really cool how it all works. Sweet. So there it is, Test House. I click that. I put it where I'm going to save it to. P drive 40, Game of Thrones movies. Sarcona House, oops, Game of Thrones, whatever. It's H.264. I hit play. Going from After Effects, it takes another second because it has to connect to the dynamic link library, and then it'll go. Think about, too, adding sound effects to your stuff, because sound is a critical thing that is like, it changes what your animation looks like and what people feel about it. You ever played a game where it's just like the sound effects are what draw you to the game? You guys suck then, okay? You don't. I play games like that all the time. There was a stupid one, it was like C shapes, and you would click it and it would just go click like this. And if it matched up with another one, then it would click again. So the goal of it was that if you clicked it right, you would get this whole pattern of click, 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 click all over the place. It's pretty awesome. Speaking of, the rest of this assignment. So once you have your stuff rendered out, bring it into After Effects, put a background if you need it, or just take it into Media Encoder and make a movie. Questions on finishing that up?